Here we go.
What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
Richardson gonna take off and run. He's in there! Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Outside give to Taylor. Stretching it out. He's at the 5, and he walks in untouched. Jonathan Taylor. Turner wants to do more damage, and he does.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now, I got a busy day for you. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll explain in a second how we're loaded up and good to go until 5. And then here in studio, the Colts pregame huddle will give you 2 hours of pregame coverage. Countdown to kickoff after that. That's the 7 o'clock hour with Matt Taylor and company over at Paycor in Cincinnati. The kick is at 8. And like Bengals fans, we'll talk to Lance McAlister coming up here at the bottom of the hour. And he'll probably be more about Joey Votto, probably be more about the Reds in Pittsburgh later on tonight than he will the Bengals because they're not starting anybody of note. Listen, it matters to some of their guys, make no mistake about it, but when you look at it as far as the front liners are concerned, this is a strange dynamic for the Colts. And here's why. Because we all know this. And we've made this argument. We've debated it, and I think most of you agree with me on my point that the more reps for Richardson, the better. But you also think in the back of your mind, how much are you jackassing around here with 2s and 3s and 4s? Guys at the back end selling out to make a name, last-ditch effort. I would answer the question like this. You gotta. Because after this, you got 17 days until you start the season. And really, there's not a great deal to win out of this. Other than the reps, the experience, which is incredibly necessary. But you have to handle it this way. Honestly, it'd be better off if the Bengals just went ahead and trotted out their ones as well. Even if you took a beating, even if it kind of felt like it did evidently in that joint practice a couple of days ago, where at the outset the offense was getting clearly outclassed by the Bengals to the point where the Bengals defensive players in the secondary were making light of it, were laughing about it, joking about it, commenting about it. But there's nothing you can do if you're the Colts. You have to. I'm specifically talking about the quarterback position because we all know that's where it starts. Like we have all these conversations about, tight end position, and this is what you got, and Jelani Woods this, and defense and secondary and safety, and I can't believe Justin Simmons is in Atlanta. And what you got to worry about is the continued health of your quarterback. That's the first thing, and then you're going to start thinking about whether or not he's going to be any good. Is he going to be able to be out there? Is he going to have availability? You start right there, and then you transition to results. It is incredibly weird. In normal circumstances, especially, it is tough to get out of your mind a year ago and a shoulder injury. But it's even more magnified when you're a Colts fan because all you've had to do is jack around with injuries basically for the better part of, 5-6 years? Especially magnified in these last handful of years. So I completely get where you're coming from. Some people are going to go, hey, you don't really want to mess with it that much, but you have to. This guy has to have reps, and you can talk all you want about the joint practices, and, we talked to Chris Ballard about that last week with the Cardinals. This is really good. You get to see and run your stuff against the other guys, but they are still not going after your dude. They are, but they're going to, like Frank Costanza, stop short. We're not really going after your guy, and there's a difference. Even Anthony Richardson explained that difference last week. He said, when somebody's coming at you, then it feels real. And he talked about his level of comfort when it does get real. And you have to have those reps. And you do kind of get in dangerous territory if you're messing around with somebody that's at the tail end, maybe even on the outside looking in of a roster spot. And, you're trying to do anything, not just, shine for the Bengals, for example, but anybody else out there. Make a highlight of yourself for another team where ultimately you could end up. It's not the best of situations, but honestly, this is exactly how you're going to feel once the season gets underway. This is how you're going to feel in week number 1. And let's face it, the argument, the discussion we've had in the past during training camp still holds true. The dude has to have reps. And then you can't be afraid of it. You can't be afraid of, well, what if? You got to let him out of the glass case, the bubble wrap, and show that he can sustain. And here's what's going to be interesting. Not only do you have to do that, but then think about this. You should go out there and you should play, should you not, if you're the Colts offense, exceptionally well. The Colts defense as well. Shouldn't you go out there as long as the ones are out there playing? Shouldn't you show some domination against what the Bengals have there to back up? I don't even think Jake Browning's playing, is he? So you do have to show it. And what you win is nothing. What you win is not a lot of conversation about how bad you stink for the next 17 days leading up to your first game. That's it. That's really it. It is a weird situation. Playing for anything other than real-time practice and repetition. You're not playing for anything, any accolades, nothing going that is going to be etched in stone that anybody gives a crap about as far as the box score is concerned. But we sit here with our arms crossed like we're the ultimate evaluators, and we're going to tell you, you better damn straight play well against this group, because if you don't, it's going to be 17 days of us being highly critical. I don't want to say it's lose-lose, because it's really not lose-lose. It is win-lose if you play well and do what you're supposed to, and then we're not yip-yapping about it. We will probably phrase it up a little bit differently and say, well, that was the final preseason game, against the back half of a roster, if that. We'll gauge what you're going to get in week number 1 against Houston and what you just saw on this Thursday night in Cincinnati. But let's face it, it is a must, because you don't really know what to think right now. And honestly, it's funny. I don't know if you're truly going to know what to think once week 1 rolls around, regardless of what happens. But I can tell you this. If there's a massive failure on either side of the football, that is going to be a familiar topic for, again, the next 17-plus days. And I know to them, I'm sure they're going to say it doesn't matter. We don't care what you talk about. But that is going to be a major topic. So you go out there and do what you're supposed to do, and then you get everybody set up. Everybody be talking about fantasy football and other stuff leading up to it. And you're not going to get that massive critique about how you failed against 3s and 4s and 5s and the like. It is an interesting dynamic. I guess I had thought about saying it is rarely seen, but it does seem like we see it more. For many, normally this is now what used to be the third of 4, the dress rehearsal. That final preseason game, historically speaking, for the Colts has most always been against the Bengals, and it was, back half of the roster. We always had to frame it up like, well, it really matters to them. And it does. But let's face it, tonight's a lot different. There'll be a lot of stuff we're watching for. Just being able to move the football, looking comfortable in doing so. The whole, really both sides of it, the whole timing of it. Can you imagine for a moment if this secondary doesn't look good against the Bengals offense? And I think about some of the things right now that you're already pessimistic about, and then times 10 if they don't look good tonight against non-starters of the Bengals. It is a weird situation, to say the least. Lance McAlister, bottom of the hour, 700 WLW, does Reds coverage, covers the Bengals. He is a good dude. We didn't talk about this because I think it was announced after we were off the air. I think later last night through Instagram, Joey Votto has called it a career. And I think he's a Hall of Famer. I'm biased because I really like Joey Votto. Yeah, as far as busting into a top 5 of all time, it's tough for me to do that because there are guys that I really like. As much as I like Votto, there are guys that I really like better. And as much as I like Votto, these other guys, fortunately for them, they were involved in some sort of world championship. Whereas Votto, the Votto years has basically been Votto doing his thing, and then everybody else kind of stinking it up for the most part. But the combination of power hitting and patience, hitting for average, hitting for power, and then being patient. Like the patience at the plate of a Tony Gwynn, for example, who was the ultimate in that category. I mean, had the best, I don't even think there's an argument there, the best batter's eye of all time, did Tony Gwynn. And there are bits and pieces that Joey Votto at the plate offensively took away from a lot of the all-time greats. And then all encompass that into a player. And he was certainly Mr. Cincinnati. He was a hell of a personality. And I do think one of these days he is going to be a Hall of Famer. One-time league MVP. But again, offensively, his combination was fun as hell to watch because it was power, it was average, and it was, hey, you know what? If you're going to walk me, I'm going to walk. And obviously, much like guys before him, like a Wade Boggs, for example, he was a creature of the craft. Studied film, took advice, leaned on others with that advice. Yeah, unfortunately for him, he was a part of one of the crappier eras of Reds baseball, which have been many. And that part stinks. But I really liked him. Future Hall of Famer. I always just, it's tough to crack the realm of the era of the Big Red Machine for me. And certainly any of the top 3, Bench, Rose, Morgan, to me, you might as well forget about it. At least to me. Those guys are always going to be different. You can make the argument of George Foster if you want. I mean, hell, you can make an argument, I think, of Ken Griffey with the Reds. Some would argue Tom Seaver, but Seaver's better days. I know he threw I should say a no-hitter for the Reds, but his better days obviously prior to with the Mets. I love the era of Eric Davis. I love the 1990 team. A guy that sprung into something in Jose Rio. Eric Davis is always going to be at the top of my list. And that's where I think you start, to me, the discussion all-time Red of Joey Votto. We'll talk about that, Bengals, Colts, and a lot more with Lance McAlister of 700 WLW. He's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. And Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 of the 4 o'clock hour. Normally Mike joins us in the 5, but today we go to the Colts pregame huddle. And Mike is going to be here in the 4 o'clock hour. If you remember last week, and this is not a question for right now, because most of you are going to say, yeah, you got to wait and see on this. And I understand it because you do. You don't like it. Some of you don't like it. But you do have to wait and see. We don't live in a world where you can wait and see any longer. You have to make that judgment, that 100% snap judgment right then and right there. But when I brought up to Mike last week about Jim Irsay maybe not being as willing to go monetarily to places where, A, he had gone in the past, or B, we're led to believe he goes. And that obviously comes up with what-ifs regarding Chris Ballard. And then Mike accurately pointed out last week, he said, listen, there are a lot of dudes that get paid a lot of money right here, so what are you talking about? And in terms of truly selling out with the budget and with the money that you have, to me, it's funny. I just don't think he has a belief in a guy like Simmons. I don't think he has a belief in the necessity at safety around here for a guy like Simmons. I don't think he has a belief in the necessity of a veteran presence at corner, and that may very well set this whole defense on fire sooner rather than later. But as we sit here right now, he has full confidence in it. You know, we're sitting talking about Anthony Richardson and what you're going to see against backups later on tonight. And this is not going to be as important because obviously the quarterback situation is always going to be the most important. But watching that secondary against backups, because I know how you feel about that already. You've got a passion of hope regarding Richardson right now. But I know how you feel about that secondary. You are just waiting for something to screw up or go haywire right here to go, yep, you know what? We told you so. I'm not going to suggest you would love to talk about it tomorrow because you want things to work out. You don't want things to screw up for this group. But it's not too far off with a lot of you, the whole feel good, I told you so. I told you. I told you the secondary is not ready. Look what they were doing against 3s and 4s here. How can you have it? Yeah, this is a game that while the front liners are in there is going to be worthy. And I give all credit and respect to those that are making a late run to try to make the team. You know, because after this, you got a handful of, obviously I think you got one practice, right? And then you're going to make a cut. So if you're going to show out, you're going to have to show out tonight. And that's the same thing for the Bengals. That's where you are a bit hesitant, regarding your front liners, regarding Anthony Richardson, but you have no choice. There's no choice. And as I mentioned, too, I guess it's kind of twofold. One is you just can't keep this guy packed in ice forever. You got to cut him loose. And he needs to be cut loose. He needs to have the reps. And you need to see it. And frankly, until that is all put together for a length of time, you're not going to really buy it until you see it. I don't blame you. You're scarred. Everybody around here is scarred. And anybody else in any other market will be the same. You look at Cincinnati before Joe Burrow and, the Super Bowl trip and, obviously where they have been, not maybe a year ago with Burrow being injured, but where they have been with him. I mean, that's a newfound era, and it took a while for Bengals fans to buy into it, to believe it. Now, they're looking for it and embrace it right now because it's been few and far between and really far apart. Basically, going all the way back to the late 1980s, going all the way back to Boomer Esiason. But you do have to learn. It's a learned experience because losing at that level, injuries at the level of the Colts, inefficiency, middle of the road bullcrap that we have all seen here for a number of years, it has scarred you. That's just your train of thought right now. We'll discuss that. Lance McAlister, bottom of the hour. Mike Chappell coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. I do have time to hear from you in the next 2 hours at 239-1070. That email address is JMV1075thefan.com. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. That is where you can watch, you can listen, you can participate in this show. Sometimes the jackassery is a little bit over the top. Let's just face it. And then James, I think, has to go in there and put the smack down, don't you? Have you been deputized by the higher-ups here to go in there and regulate James Johnson?
Indeed. I have authority to dispense justice, as you if
James is a regulator around here, much like Eddie and right? Is Dykton a regulator? When he's around, normally he's on vacation, but when he's here, is he a regulator?
When he's here, he's a regulator.
That's what I thought. Yeah, makes sense. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. And again, a shout-out to Matt and Matt for being a part of that and bringing you opportunities to go to great shows, VIP style, like they did earlier in the week for Imagine Dragons at Ruoff. AAA membership, it is important. Get on board with it right now. If you like to travel, a lot of travel options with AAA you can do. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Tomorrow's show is going to be at Sid's Bar and Grill in Noblesville. Rarely have we seen the excitement of going to a place as we have seen in and around Noblesville and Hamilton County for this. And it's not just because our good friend Fulton's going to be there either. Now, that's part of it. Don't get me wrong. But there is a great deal of excitement. I would suggest a fever pitch for Sid's in Noblesville coming up. I have never been there before. Our Heaven Hill Distillery Tavern Tour stop, my man Romy's going to be there with us tomorrow, Jim Romanek, and a host of others. I've had some RSVPs. I believe Gina's going to stop by there for a bit. Hagen's been kind of weird. Hagen's called, and I didn't pick up. And then I called back, and Hagen didn't pick up. This is kind of how it goes right there. I'm expecting an appearance from Hagen as well. But Sid's tomorrow. Sid's Bar and Grill in Noblesville. We would love to see you there, and I know a lot of you are very excited about that. 8 o'clock kick tonight, Colts and Bengals, Paycor Stadium. Coverage right here, television-wise, prime video, but right here, 8 o'clock is that kick. Of course, the voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, has you covered there. We have the Colts pregame huddle beginning at 5, but prior to that, Mike Chappell in the 4 o'clock hour, and a Bengals edge and the life and times and career of Joey Votto and the Cincinnati Reds, with Lance McAlister of 700 WLW in Cincinnati. That's coming up next. Stream the app, HD Radio, and 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
Collect them, trade them, or just enjoy them.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Well, JMV 88 right there. Chappell, top of the hour. Colts pregame huddle with me, Bill Brooks, Gorman, and a host of others begins at 5 o'clock today. Sid's Noblesville tomorrow. That's a tavern tour stop with Heaven Hill Distillery. You don't need to RSVP, just show up. Can't wait to see you there. Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, friend of the show, the big one, 700 WLW in Cincinnati. And of a local note from Carmel and Butler, Lance McAlister joins us this afternoon. Hello, Lance. How are you?
I am well. You had me flashing back when you said Noblesville, because in the day in the 80s, nothing like a Friday night, and I was on the mic for WHJE Radio, Carmel High School Radio, calling Carmel versus Noblesville in basketball and football, and it was big time. Big time.
Now, did you do music in high school too?
Yeah, I was a DJ. I was queuing up records. What do you mean?
So
sure.
tell me. So what was your go-to right there? So what, 83, somewhere in that neighborhood is what we're talking about?
84 graduated, so my sweet spot was a 38 special, Hold On Loosely. What are you laughing at?
I love it. No, I love it. Seriously. I love it.
Little Foreigner 4, little Rolling Stones Tattoo You.
I believe Foreigner 4. We're not that far away from celebrating an anniversary of Foreigner 4 right there.
Yeah.
One of the great albums of the 80s. Speaking of greatness, where does Votto go down in Reds history all time?
Oh, man. He, you talk about a treasure, and I'm a big numbers guy. And just from a purely number standpoint, consider this franchise has been around for longer than any franchise in the history of the game. And he ends his career in franchise history, fourth in runs, fourth in hits, second in doubles, second in homers, third in ribbies, first in walks, second in extra base hits, second in total bases, second in times on base, second in on base percentage. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And he was such a meticulous, analytically driven, such a connoisseur of his craft, in that I would imagine Ted Williams would have been when he played. And the beauty was Joey was an introvert early in his career and really learned to open up and let fans know him. And there's an odd side of him. There's a very unique side of him. There's a fun side of him. And when it's all said and done, I get asked a lot, well, what do you think he's going to do next? Anyone who says they know has no idea, because it would not shock me if he went to the mountains of Canada and decided to wear flannel and chop wood in a cabin the rest of his life, and we never hear from him again. That's the type of guy he is.
Would you be surprised if he, in some form or fashion, stayed in baseball as a coach and or decision maker?
I wouldn't be. I think he would take a little bit of a break to get away from it, a little bit of separation maybe, but I could see that down the road. And at the same time, I think he would be fantastic on the set for Fox National Baseball Package or you name it. He's just, he was very good at that as he got into it and did some Reds games up in the booth on the TV side as well. He's just so driven and passionate about whatever he's going to do. He's going to be good at it. There's no question.
So Lance McAlister, 700 WLW in Cincinnati. So if we go Rose, bench, not particular in that order, Morgan, even Larkin, kind of a modern day throw in there as well. Where's Joey Votto in upper tank, upper tier Reds of all time?
I'm going to take the easy way out and say he's in the top handful. I'm a product of the Big Red Machine.
Me too.
So I know that era. And Pete Rose is my childhood favorite Reds player. Joey Votto is my adulthood favorite Reds player. It's weird. And I thought about this today. There is a sadness, I feel, that he was here for 17 years. And some in this city spent those 17 years with an odd sense of resentment or jealousy towards him because he wasn't one of the Big Red Machine, that they thought he made too much money, that he walked too much, he wasn't clutch enough. Some of that was driven, honestly, by the play-by-play voice of the Reds, Marty Brenneman, who looked at Joey as a guy who should have driven in more runs. And it's just, thinking back, I would have hated to have thought for 17 years all the negatives of Joey Votto and not appreciated what he was and what he became for this team.
So was Marty truly appreciative of Joey Votto? I guess I don't remember those times. You would vividly. What was that dynamic at work there?
Yeah, Marty became, and Marty will tell you, he's old school. And Joey, Joey didn't usher it in himself, but was riding the wave of the era of Major League Baseball where analytics and on base and not making outs was a good thing. And Joey understood you had 27 outs in a game. You didn't want to give them up because once you were out, it was done. And he got on base. He led the National League in on base percentage 7 times. And it drove some crazy that maybe on a pitch, maybe an inch off the plate that was a ball, they thought he should have gone out of the zone to hit the ball with runners on base to drive in the run. And my argument was you're running counter to how the game is set up. There's a strike zone. If the pitch is out of the strike zone and you swing at it, you're setting yourself up to not be as successful. So it honestly drove some people crazy that he walked instead of trying to go out of the zone to collect hits and drive in runs. And yet, I'll give you one stat. I get fired up about this because I looked it up today. The idea that Joey Votto isn't clutch. I took the top 50 players in the history of the franchise in terms of something simple as WAR. And Joey Votto has with runners in scoring position, Joey Votto is all time in this franchise's history the best in batting average, the best in on base, the best in slugging, and the best in OPS. With runners in scoring position in his career, he hit .321 with an OPS over 1,000. And yet people will claim to, well, Tony Perez was clutch. We'd like to remember it that way, but he wasn't as clutch as Joey Votto, nor was Johnny Bench or Eric Davis or Joe Morgan or Ken Griffey or anybody else in the history of the franchise.
Lance McAlister is with us. He's surefire Hall of Fame, though, right? Without a doubt.
There is no doubt. I said today I can't wait because I don't know what order they come in, but there will be a Joey Votto Appreciation Night one day at Great American Ballpark. There will be a Joey Votto Reds Hall of Fame induction one day. There will be a Joey Votto Cooperstown induction one day. The Reds will retire his number 19 one day, and they will build a statue of him one day. And I can't wait for all of those.
Statue even there, Lance.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Mark it down.
So Lance McAlister is with us. We get an odd football game later on tonight, right? At least from the standpoint of somebody that covers the Colts, they're going to be rolling their starters. And Chris Ballard told me last Wednesday at least a half, and that's prior to knowing that Zach Taylor decided to pull the plug on the starters for this game and going with the backups. That's always a very odd dynamic at work. But again, if you're the Colts, Richardson needs the reps, and we're going to see that later on tonight. Why the decision non-starting wise from Zach Taylor and the Bengals for tonight?
I think they've seen enough. They've gotten enough done to this point. They're going to close ranks and try to keep everybody healthy. They've been dinged up in camp. Miles Murphy, their first-round pick from a year ago, a defensive end, ESPN reported this afternoon that his knee injury, non-contact knee injury earlier in the week is going to make him miss 4 to 6 weeks. So that's maybe 2 to 4 of the regular season, unfortunately. They've got questions at starting right tackle. Their first-round pick is going to miss some time with a chest issue. So I think they just want to get out of this and on to things without getting anybody else hurt. And there's probably one question remaining about the starting lineup on both sides of the ball, so there's not a whole lot to – this is, numbers 52, 3, 4 on your roster being figured out tonight for the Bengals. That's it.
How's the fan base viewing Jamar Chase's situation right now?
I think it's very interesting. I asked that question, and I've done it in various forums, and it's running more against Jamar than I would have thought. It's running about 2 to 3, about 67% of the people who at least have responded in polls I've done are on the side of the Bengals. And usually Mike Brown doesn't get the benefit of the doubt in this town because most for years viewed him as being cheap and unwilling to pay. But it comes down to a simple debate. On one side, you have Jamar, and, he wants to be paid among the top wide receivers in the game. And I understand that because he is one of the top wide receivers in the game. But on the other side, he's got 2 years left on his deal, not one. He's got 2 years left on his deal. And I think most of the fans, the majority of the fans say, hey, the Bengals are going to take – they took care of Joe Burrow. They gave him $1 bazillion. They'll take care of you next year. You're 2 years out, so let's play. And he has not run a single rep in all of camp. He's worn a baseball cap, and he's been there for every day but one, so he doesn't get fined. And I have filed this under, and I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think he's going to play week one because I think his only leverage – none of this is any leverage. Sitting out might be viewed as simply protecting himself from injury. I get that. But it doesn't doesn't mean anything unless he misses a game. There's no screws being tightened on the Bengals organization unless in a Super Bowl aspiration season, Jamar Chase misses week 1 against the Patriots. Then it gets interesting. Now, I may say that, and he may show up next week and say, I'm ready to go, and he just kept his body fresh, but I'll believe he's here in week 1 when I see it.
Is this the right choice for him to do?
I understand his side. I understand if I were his agent, I'd be saying, hey, look what Jefferson got and everybody else got, and you got to strike now. But, man, I mean – in this city, if you get on the wrong side, and this is a window of a Super Bowl, and this is the Joe Burrow famously said, the window is my career, and they missed the playoffs last year because Joe had an injury. I wouldn't want to be part of playing around with this another year of a window where I don't know. Maybe he comes back and because he hasn't practiced in camp, he gets hurt. Maybe he strains a hamstring. I don't know. I just think there's a lot at stake here. And I don't think there's any doubt the Bengals will take care. They've said they love him. They will give him $35, $40 million a year, whatever. I just don't think they're going to give it to him right now, 2 years out. I wouldn't.
It's Lance McAlister's over in Cincinnati joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. 8 o'clock to start tonight, preseason game 3 with the Colts and the Bengals. So we're not going to see Jake Browning tonight either, or his girlfriend, correct?
Neither one, unfortunately, for the latter. Yeah, for the
what the hell are we going to be watching tonight, then? You better break it down for us.
Well, this city's focus right now, this city's upside down. We've got Green Day in town, Smashing Pumpkins, Rancid, Lindas. I don't even know who the Lindas are, but they're in town. The Bengals and Colts are playing just, 1,000 feet away at the other stadium. The Joey Votto retirement news. There's total chaos in this city.
My goodness. How can you – so – Smashing Pumpkins, Green Day, and Rancid all together tonight. Is that true?
Yes, Great American Ballpark. Great American Ballpark.
My goodness. So have you eyeballed?
Don't forget Lindas either. They're there too.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting right there too. I'm curious who we're going to see though. I mean, help us out. Maybe highlight a couple of dudes tonight at the end of this whole depth chart situation that the Colts fans are going to see. It's weird, too, because you're going to be playing your starters against these dudes, and sometimes that can be dangerous territory, Lance.
Oh, there's no question. There's that built-in scrap of, if you're a guy who's maybe playing for a roster spot, you're going to want to go above and beyond and try to do something that pops on tape, either for this team or for the film that will be circulated around the league. So there's always that chance of the wild card just being out there and going nuts on a night like this. There's just not there. And when I say this, I think it's really true. There's probably just a handful of guys in a scrum who are fighting for a spot on this team. Now, you're going to see some – I don't know that you're going to see your guy, Zach Moss, the former Colt. I don't think he's going to play tonight at all. So, you're talking third string, fourth string, and guys who will, as Mike Brown or Paul Brown said years ago, seek their life work after being cut at the end of training camp here.
What's going to be more popular, this preseason game, the Reds on the road in Pittsburgh, or Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, and Rancid?
I would be putting money on Green Day right now, the way this city's reacting, because I think anybody watching the Bengals tonight will watch with one eye closed, kind of cringing, saying, just get out of this thing and don't get hurt.
Scott Yaney writes this. You have to give Lance a shout-out from me. Old Charles in Charge. Charles in Charge had the Bayo black-haired mullet, drove a white Chevy Nova, and I believe with green trim, checking out the girls with white frame sunglasses back in the day. That's from Scott Yaney.
Yes. Well, there are in the city of Carmel, there are two families that I consider my second families, and that's the Harris family and the Yaney family, and that's Brad Harris and Brian Harris, and that's Scott and Rob Yaney. They were the best for 2 summers. I lived with the Harrises when I was in school, and I was basically I ran the household. I was Charles in Charge for him for 2 summers, and in those days I was taking him to all the practices there was to have. And Kent Harris, the dad, was the legendary high school baseball coach at Sheridan High School back in the 80s, and those are great memories. It is great to hear from Scott.
It is awesome to always have you on over here. Yaney's a really good friend, great guy too, man. I appreciate you hopping on here. Enjoy what is going to be a night in the Queen City. We'll check in with you again soon.
Look forward to it. Have a great night.
It's Lance McAlister, 700 WLW here on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Quick break. We'll come back. Top of the hour, Mike Chappell, 5 o'clock. Colts pregame huddle takes effect right here in this studio. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
This will be the high point of my day. It's all downhill from here.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, Rancid. What was the fourth band that he mentioned? Something the Walendas or whatever. What the hell's that? I have not seen Green Day. I've seen the Smashing Pumpkins. I think Rancid was a part of either a Lollapalooza or an X-Fest back in the day that I was attending. Yeah, I saw Smashing Pumpkins 94 Lollapalooza, and that was before like Billy Corgan really kind of became really weird. Good stuff right there. Lance McAlister Podcast 1075thefan.com, getting you set on a variety of levels, including preseason game 3 tonight with the Colts and the Bengals. We tried to get him to eyeball exactly what you're going to be seeing later on tonight on the depth chart of the Bengals. No Jake Browning girlfriend. It's a bummer. But it's reps and performance against this group. You're not going to win anything, but the criticism will avalanche if the Colts don't look good tonight. Be interesting, certainly, from a Colts angle. Rex Hampton writes this: I'm southeast bound and down on 74 right now. Shout out to Rex. Going to get some La Rosa's pizza and an ice-cold Yingling draft and see how Anthony Richardson looks. Shout out to Rex. Do you remember back before Yingling made its way into the state of Indiana? It was such a big deal. You go to Ohio and everybody always brought back Yingling. You stopped at that final exit right there off 74 in Harrison, Ohio to get Yingling. It was the feeling that you were bootlegging, like Smokey and the Bandit. Like, hey, we got to stop here and get it. Hope nobody sees this. Well, I mean, you're still paying for it. And it's legal. They just don't sell it here. It's a big deal. Yingling. How many years has Yingling been available here in Indiana? Do we know?
I can look it up, but I feel like it's been a while.
Calvin Fitch would know. Calvin, if you're out there listening somewhere, not fishing or complaining about something, let me know exactly how many years Yingling has been available in the state of Indiana. Calvin is a Yingling rep and a good dude. It's got to be, what, 7? 8 years?
It's looking like 2017.
2017, so only 7? Wow. Well, I said 7 a moment ago, so that one, yeah. Occasionally I forget stuff. Now, shout out to Rex on his way over there tonight. Rex, in effect, at Paycor this evening. All right, we got the race of the day coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. Mike Chappell's going to join us on the other side. Then you have the Colts pre-game huddle. We'll see who all filters into the studio here before 5. 5 until 7 for that. Countdown to kickoff with Matt and the gang from Cincinnati. 7 until 8. And your preseason kickoff time is at 7, of course. Prime Video, I believe, locally on 59 coming up later on tonight is where you're going to find that as well. Preseason Game 3, Colts and Bengals, in-depth conversation with Mike Chappell. That's next.
The Ride with JMV.
Remember, mum's the word.
Certainly, but
Mum.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Mum's available. Miss Him's Home and Gardens, Sundown Gardens. BT writes this. I remember a friend of my dad's showing up with a car loaded down with cases of Coors. Couldn't get it east. I don't think it was east of the Mississippi. Was it east of Colorado? No, it was east of Texas. That was the premise, right, in Smokey the Bandit. So they went to Texarkana, Texas to rip it off. Yeah, that's what people wanted it to feel like, well, the Yingling of the day. So we're going on 7 years. There was always, we got to go to Cincinnati. And see, for me, and I know we have some in the state of Indiana, I'm still a Frisch's big boy. Now, right now, I'm watching stuff. But I'm still Frisch's big boy. Frisch's big boy over La Rosa's, over either of the chili places, Skyline or Gold Star. What is the barbecue place called Porkopolis, which I think also was known as an 80s porn flick. But seriously, Porkopolis?
Porkopolis?
I believe,
I've
yes.
never heard of that
Yeah.
before.
I believe that's what it's called.
Let me look it up.
It's in the stadium. I was a fan of Frisch's big boy, but you always, before you got out of Ohio, you always stopped for Yingling. Always. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. Not the case any longer for our next guest. CBS 4 and Fox 59. I'm assuming he's going to be at Paycor later on tonight to document everything you're going to watch in preseason Game 3. Mike Chappell, who joins us right now. You over there?
Full disclosure, no. It's too much. I haven't got my mobility yet back all the way, so it's too much walking. I'll watch it and then work from home.
Just tell me the truth here. Were you scarred because you rode home with the Gorman going 95 miles an hour a couple of days ago?
I almost wanted to go back with him today just for the ride. I just sat in the car and we're listening to the game. It's a hoot. Those guys, I tell you, those guys are a traveling circus, and all of the stuff we can dump on Matt Taylor. He had us all pumped to go to Velvet Smoke, a barbecue place. And he was, barbecue this and ribs and brisket and all this. And okay. And we get there, and I think he mentioned to you yesterday or Tuesday, and it was closed. It opens at 4 o'clock.
Wow.
And on top of that, it's not open on Tuesdays. So, he took 2 cold strikes. But they're fun. They're great guys.
That's unusual because Matt Taylor usually has everything planned out.
He'll hear this for another couple of weeks because not only was it closed at 4 o'clock, it was closed on Tuesdays. So thankfully there was a Jersey Mike's right next door. So it's
and I like Jersey Mike's too, but that's kind of you want to go over there for something that you can't get around here.
We had Jersey Mike's on South Emerson near Beach Grove.
Yes.
So but those guys are great to work with. And at one time, again, the speed did hit 98. I told him I don't know that I've ever been in a car that hit 98. I really don't. I'm not Andre Rison, but it was fun.
See, I'm a big fan of Frisch's Big Boy, and maybe I shouldn't be. Not they used to be all over the place, and now they're sparingly around.
When I was up in Anderson and visited the kids and all that stuff. There were 2. There was one on the mall by the mall, the Mounds Mall, and then there was one out on the north side on Broadway as you leave town. Maybe it's still there.
I think that one is still there. I believe so. Yes.
My dad used to get the patty melt or whatever. I don't know what it was, but good place. And those are just the stature of the kid out with holding a burger. That you don't see a lot of those guys anymore.
No, you don't. Love it. Love it when you go to Cincinnati for that. Mike Chappell joins us. Is it as odd as I make it out to be when you're the Colts and, Chris Ballard told us last Wednesday that Anthony Richardson was going to play for at least a half, and then you learn that the Bengals are going to be sitting all their guys? Because to me, you have to have the reps. It's essential for the reps, but this is not, I don't think, the best of situations to get those reps. Would you agree?
Well, but maybe it is because you can get your work, then you can you better be efficient.
Yeah.
Now, if they come out and get smoked by the Bengals backups, and Houston, we have a problem with Houston coming in. But normally, the 2 coaches get together and they're in agreement on how they're going to handle things. that was the case, with last year in the second week, and this year in the second week with Chicago and Arizona, and then you play your starters obviously in the joint work, and then they don't play, but then they play in the third preseason game. So I'm a little surprised that the Bengals are doing this, but there's not a chance that Steichen's going to change his approach. You've got each team has to do things their own way, and there's not a chance that Zach Taylor said, we're not going to play our guys. How about if you hold your – no, we're going to play our guys. And Steichen said quarter and a half, which probably means 20 plays, 25 plays. They'd love to get a couple of 10-play drives, convert some third downs, get a touchdown, maybe a field goal, and then sit. But no, you have to do things your own way. And I agree on Richardson needs to play. But the thing is, he can play. They're not going to put him in harm's way. I mean, he's not going to be running these zone reads that we see in training camp. He's going, if he runs, it'll be because protection breaks down, and he'll look to get down or get out of bounds. And what's the over/under on Jonathan Taylor carries tonight? 5? Don't you take the under? Does he not play at all? I don't know, but Richardson can get his reps with live stuff, and you can protect him barring a play breaking down. The idea of him running the ball on the design run, I just don't see it.
Which means it's going to happen.
Then that's on the quarterback. And if he does that, he's got to see this. So maybe this is a chance to show the quarterback, okay, you're out there, then protect yourself. And that's what a lot of this season is going to be anyway, is they're going to run him. The 2 games he played start to finish last year, he ran the ball 10 times in each game. So, over the course of the season, it's 150, 160 carries, and then you add on 15 or 18 for Taylor, that's 300 and some for him. And so, but again, I think you can get work done offensively without really intentionally putting the quarterback at risk. Again, Taylor, how much does he need to play? Probably not much. Michael Pittman, I don't think he plays much. I really don't. But they do, you're still working on that A.D. Mitchell, Alec Pierce combination, and the tight ends. We were also high in the tight end group going into camp, and now I just keep 3 of them. Will Mallory's, as much as he's shown promise like last year, we haven't seen that growth this year. Jelani Woods is now out, so there's still questions. Tight ends, who's your swing tackle? Blake Freeland hasn't really played well preseason. The fact that they're still mixing and matching at safety drives me crazy. That shouldn't be the case.
Can you imagine if things go haywire tonight in the secondary?
God, I hope not. Like you said, you're going to be facing their third quarterback, and I don't think Jamar Chase is, might not be in the building.
Can you imagine? We got 17 days of this.
That's other than somebody important getting hurt, the worst possibility is that the secondary, and also include corners, the safety and the corners don't play well. That against guys a lot of them won't be with the Bengals in like a week.
Yeah.
That will be worst case, but it just, doggone it, you shouldn't be 17, 18 games in the regular season and still not sure what your combination is at safety. It just makes me nervous. Hey, but it either works or they catch hell for it, and that's kind of where we are. Juju Brents needs to play. Does he play tonight? I don't know, with a broken nose. And as much as we complain, as much as everybody complains about Anthony Richardson injury prone, doggone Juju's had like 5 different body parts dealt with over the last year and a half or 2 years. So, and he's a great kid. He's going to be a really, really good corner. But, boy, you got to stay on the field.
So Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Again, you get the Colts and Bengals tonight, 5 o'clock. Your pregame coverage begins here in about 50 minutes. That is the Colts pregame huddle right here on the Fan. Yeah, I was going to bring this up, but I just couldn't help myself. I had to injected in there in the middle of your response. You just imagine if the secondary, which everybody's been all over from safety to corner, it's been
just gets ripped.
One or the other, or both in this case. If it has a bad evening, 17 days of it forthcoming.
And they will have earned it. I mean, however much people want to pile on, there's a couple of spots like that. I say a couple, primarily just the secondary, where everyone, whether it's Chris Ballard or Shane Steichen or Gus Bradley, not as much to where they're saying, trust us. We have it's not confidence, belief. We have belief in these guys. Maybe confidence gets in there some. But if you have so much confidence, why do you still not really know what you're going to do? We talked to Shane Steichen in Cincy on Tuesday when I went down there with a lot of guys, and someone asked, are you settling it on Nick Cross? Well, we got him, we got Ronnie Thomas and Julian and Trevor Dinbo and all these guys, and we don't have that discussion at left tackle. At tight end a little bit, but not really, not to this degree. Not at defensive line, not at linebacker. So that's, again, it just makes me nervous because you're going to face top level quarterbacks all season. We're not going to see Aiden O'Connell. Good for him that he's done what he's done. But the Colts got sort of a break last year with all the gallery of quarterbacks they faced. That's not the case this year. So they've got to, and it's one thing. Let's say Kwity Paye messes up on an assignment, miscommunication, whatever, at defensive end. It's a 5 or 10 yard run. You mess up in the secondary, and it's a touchdown. It just is. There's just no room. There's such little room for error on the back end of a defense, and I keep coming back to the same thing. The fact that there's still this serious discussion on who's going to be where. Maybe they rotate during games that, at one time Julian's free and then he's strong and it's Nick Cross or someone else. It just makes me nervous, but this is what they've chosen to do.
Hey, Mike, you brought up tight ends. I want to jump back to that for a moment. And there's no reason to do anything right now. Thus, the Colts, I don't think, logically will do anything right now. But are you done with Jelani Woods and thought, in thinking what he was going to be compared to, let's just face it, what he has been and what he is right now, injured? When
I did my 53 projection on Monday, I think it was, I had him on the roster. But before he got injured, I had him on the roster, and because I just thought they weren't going to give up on a third-round draft pick yet. I realize it's not a Shane Steichen draft pick, but I know Ballard and those guys really like him. But doggone, this is another what Joel Erickson reported, surgery on the toe, which no, I think what you do, you put him on IR when you make the roster cut, and then it buys you time. Now it takes one of your returns from IR if you have a rash of injuries. But we're getting to that point. I mean, at some point when injuries overtake a guy's playing time and what he's done, and boy, he looked good as a rookie and this, that, and the other. Whenever he looked good as a rookie, but I go back to back in the day with E.G. Green. I thought it was going to be a really, really good player for him in the Peyton Manning early years. Couldn't stay healthy. So I'm not ready to give up on him, but the problem is, again, we've got Mo, who they've always tried to get to replace, and they can't. And Granson's played well, not super, and Ogletree playing better. He was with the ones in Cincinnati. He might get more work tonight. After that, it's not really emerged as a position of strength that we all thought it was. So, hey, when rosters are cut at 53 next Tuesday, maybe there's a tight end that comes in here. Maybe I hope there's a safety that comes in here. I would think there's 2 or 3 players not here yet. But, there's some really strong position. I wouldn't mind a better backup running back than what they've got. I miss Zach Moss and what he did, and good for him. He got a decent contract from the Bengals. So I like this roster. There's just a couple of spots that concern me, and they're one injury away from really being in dire straits, which most teams are. Let's be honest, most teams are like that. If they lose this guy, then what are they going to do?
Yeah,
but we're talking about the Colts, so that's what kind of we dwell on.
That and the people around here are scarred about a variety of things.
Sure they are.
So, yeah, that's just.
Sure. And again, we won't. The offense that people see September 8th will look nothing like what they've seen in preseason. It'll look a lot closer to what we, the media, have seen in camp and during OTAs where they're working on things. But whatever you see tonight, it's not going to be close to what they do when the season starts. Trust me on that.
He is Mike Chappell, CBS 4 and Fox 59 on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. 8 o'clock tonight. It is on Prime. You can catch it on Fox 59 preseason game 3 with the Colts and the Bengals from Paycor over in Cincinnati. All right, so Matt Gay, is it different holder? Just misses? Is it the yips? We got some issues here working going into tonight that really some issues that need to find a solid conclusion this evening in Cincinnati.
They need to have a couple of drives, and I'd like to see the first kick come from, 40. Let's not put him out there with a 55-yarder to start with, but doggone, he needs to kick a couple, 2 or 3. Yes, you want touchdown. The kicker needs to kick. He's 1 for 4. And again, you go back and it's all about numbers with kickers. He starts 16 for 18 with the Colts. Since then, he's 18 for 27. I mean, 18. That's 67%. That just doesn't cut it. But he had a strong day in Cincy. He was 5 for 5 against one of the funkiest temporary goalposts you've ever seen. But
that was pretty. It's like somebody needed to go out there and hang from the other end of it to make it even.
Yeah, as a kicker, do you take into account the lean? I mean, they were definitely leaning. It's like what you have in a high school. But he was solid on, and at the end of the 2-minute drill, when the offense picked up, he drilled a 50-some yarder. So am I concerned? A little, only because that's what he does. And really, we've been surprised he's not kicked a ton during training camp, which I really don't understand. The 2 or 3 times that we've seen him kick, it's been Schrader. So I don't know if there's something going on. I don't know. They're not going to tell us that this player is dealing. Well, you guys didn't know he was dealing with a hammy or whatever. No, because you guys didn't tell us, and players don't tell us. So I hope he's fine. You can't have a kicker going 80%. You just can't. You've got to have a guy 85, 90, and he was a 92% kicker with the Rams. He missed 6 kicks in 3 years. He missed 8 last year. So they're paying him to be about as sure thing as you can be. Yes, on long kicks, but doggone, 44, 38, those are ones that you just got there and kick and you go back and sit down. And right now, not super concerned, but depending on what happens tonight. Now, they're not going to replace him, for crying out loud. But Shane Steichen cannot be worrying about when it's 4th and 6. Do I kick a 54-yarder? Do I go for it, or do I punt? No, you send your kicker out there and say, give me 3 points. I'm not sure if they're quite there yet, and they need to be.
Hey, Mike, Laquan Treadwell, the veteran wide receiver, has, 8 receptions, 88 yards through 2 preseason games. Does this matter at all?
Normally not. I've done before where you do the leading rusher and the leading receiver in preseason, and they don't normally make the roster. The last 2 years, the leading rusher has been Sam Ehlinger. So what does that tell you? But whether that 6th spot is open or not, Ashton Doolin's back after having, an ACL last year and then hamstring issues that he missed some of camp. I think they really like Ashton Doolin. I've got him up as as the 6th guy. Winfrey's played well. Treadwell's played well. I just think that on that 6th spot, that guy's got to be a really, really good special teams player. Doolin has been. I still think it's Doolin's spot unless somebody just jumps up. I don't think they keep 7 with Josh Downs' situation, who's probably going to miss, a game, 2 games maybe. I don't think you can carry 7. That's just too many to steal. If you do that, you've got to steal a roster spot from tight end somewhere. I don't think they do that. But, I think there's still 2 or 3 spots open. I've always thought that the 53, these coaches, they know for the most part, who their 50, 51 are. Maybe somebody can do something.
Could you see his usefulness here as a veteran guy or is this just about preseason? Could you see his usefulness here?
Again?
Treadwell. Could you see his usefulness here at that position at all?
Yeah, but again, I just think they like Doolin more.
Gotcha.
If they're convinced that he can stay healthy again with the ACL, I don't think that's a problem anymore. But when you miss training camp time and then somebody else steps up, I won't be shocked if they do something else with that sixth spot. I think they keep Doolin, but I wouldn't be shocked if another player steps up and is the guy next Tuesday.
Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Final thing before I let you go here. We kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. In closing, if the Colts are not the more dominant team against the 3s and 4s and 5s and whatever else tonight, what's going to be the conversation here? I mean, is that going to hold a lot of water conversationally, or is it how are we going to view it, I guess? Because it seems like it would be tough. If they're not dominant, it'd be tough to judge it any other way than a mess.
It's almost lose-lose. Let's say they go out
That's
there
what I thought, yeah.
Richardson has a couple of 10-play drives, and they just go down and look really good. And they're going to say, well, yeah, but you're going against their 2s. And if you don't, you're going to say, what happened? You were going against their 2s. I think you made the better point, though, is the secondary needs to play well. They're going to face their third quarterback. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's not. He won't even. Will he be in uniform tonight during warm-up? Probably not. So yeah, you just want to go out there and play well for a quarter and a half. Act like you're efficient. Get a couple of maybe a takeaway on defense, but some first down and convert on offense, and then sit down and let Sam Ehlinger and Jason Bean get out there and run around and because, as I said, this is a great time for Sam and Jason Bean because they're so athletic and they're so great on improv, which that's what preseason is once you get past the starters. But you're right. Get out there and play well so that for the next 17 days, people aren't going to say, man, Richardson looked like crap out there, and what's with this secondary? That's what you don't want. They say they don't listen. A lot of players listen, and they won't like hearing it. But if they don't play well, that's what they're going to hear because that's what they will have earned.
Hey, really quickly, one final thing because it just occurred to me. I asked this last week. When I was talking to Ballard last week, we got into going into year 8 and, the pressure of it and the criticism of it for me, everybody else around here. He did not appear to me to be a guy that's nervous. Thus, I don't think that he's too concerned about the pressure of his situation this year, or at least as concerned as I think a lot of us feel he needs to be with the lack of results. Would you buy that?
Yeah. I think if he were preoccupied with that and it really was wearing on him, maybe there's a safety here. Maybe they do go out and get a safety you have more confidence in. I just think he's I guess stubborn. I don't know if that can be viewed two different ways. I think he's comfortable with how he does things.
Is stubborn being thinking you're smarter than everybody else in the room? Because I think that's it more than anything else.
Boy, that's a dangerous thing to be. We've had some GMs here who thought they were the smartest, and
well, I mean, Bill Polian was at the top of that list, but oftentimes,
look what he did
exactly,
and look what he gave here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there should be pressure. There should be pressure on all these guys, especially the guy that put this team together. Boy, you listen to Jim Irsay, blue chip general manager, and depending on how this season goes, there should be heat on the GM because you're not going to fire Steichen. You're not going to get rid of the quarterback. You're not going to get rid of X number of players. The guy who has to be accountable will be the GM. I don't know what it would take for a change to be made. I'm not even predicting that. I think this team is going to be competitive, whatever that means, in December. It better be competitive in December, barring injuries. But at the end of the day, it's on the GM. I don't think he's preoccupied because he just knows he goes about his business. He's comfortable, obviously, with how he builds a roster and how they dole out the salary cap. So it's not that he's not aware of it, but it's not guiding whatever he does.
Yeah, it just did not. And you mentioned the words of Jim, who, often goes, the upper tier of descriptions when Maybe at those moments it's not necessarily the description that a lot of people would give. He seemed to me like a guy that didn't have the cares that after 7 years and the results of 7 years we would think he would have.
A lot of GMs still would not be here with this resume. They just wouldn't be.
A lot of GMs with a better resume wouldn't be here.
Well,
seriously,
yes,
you could win and not be here.
Right. So, it just shows the faith that the Irsay family has in Ballard. I don't think Irsay is just blowing smoke. I think he truly believes that. And all of this is going to come down to, were they correct with this quarterback? Is this the guy that's going to be, we're going to be talking about in 6 or 7 years that look what they've done with this guy? Or are they back hunting for a quarterback in 2 years because this guy isn't, his start tonight will be, what is it, his 18th start, I think it is, since high school. Bo Nix has started like 70 games.
Yeah.
So, but if they're right on the quarterback, then good for them. If not, there will be changes made at some point, whether that's after this year, after next year. At some point, you've got to be right with the quarterback, and we'll see.
Hey, Mike, I appreciate you. Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Enjoy the game.
Will do. Talk to you.
It's Mike Chappell on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So, corporate logos on the floor of Assembly Hall. There are some people that are upset about that. Look what all is going on around here. All right? If you're going to make some money, you're going to make some money, and I think we're past the old school mentality. And to some of you, maybe that's no longer a draw or it's something that pushes you away. But, yeah, you kind of knew that was coming, did you not? That from Rap Johns a little bit earlier today. We can dive into that if you like. And a lot of other things on this particular show, including the Harris Hoosier Park race of the day, not too far away. 5 o'clock for the Colts pregame huddle right here in studio. Preseason game number 3 with the Bengals in Cincinnati. That kick is at 8 o'clock tonight. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
with JMV.
We have the holy hand grenade.
Yes, of course. The holy hand grenade of Antioch.
Right.
1, 2, 5. 3, sir. 3.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
And I dig it because my daughter's 14 and loves The Cure. This song, a love song, James, this date off of Disintegration, was released. Good song, love song, The Cure. Interesting day we have, and the recap tomorrow is going to be outstanding because we're going to be live. In case you did not know, I would have to ask you where you've been. We're going to be at Sid's Bar and Grill, Noblesville, tomorrow. That is a longtime staple where everybody has told me they are excited about us being there tomorrow. So make sure you join us. Sid's Bar and Grill, Noblesville, Tavern Tour Stop with Heaven Hill Distillery. My man Jim Romanak is going to be there, and be ready. Seriously, there are many times when we get incredible feedback, especially when we're going to places for a first time, but this one has been off the charts. I'm getting RSVPs, people saying, hey, when you go there, you got to get this. This is one of the best places of all time. This is a Noblesville staple. Sid's tomorrow, Tavern Tour Stop. And really what this is going to do tomorrow, this kind of starts a run to where basically every Thursday and Friday we are out somewhere, as it should be, and it's going to be that way until late January. So it does. It all begins tomorrow. Love to see everybody up there. Sid's Bar and Grill. That's Sid's Bar and Grill in Noblesville. A Tavern Tour Stop coming up tomorrow. Also, I should mention a week from tomorrow, that is going to be the start of our Labor Day weekend bender, the sequel. A Mystic Waters Campground, Pendleton off of I-69. Obviously, Heaven Hill Distillery, Brent Halverson going to be in on that too. You know what that entails. It's a party weekend. It's where you camp. You have a cabin, maybe an RV, a camper, a tent, whatever. But it's us hanging the entirety of the weekend. And on Friday, we'll do this show a week from Friday. And I believe Brent's going to get a band. But even if he doesn't get a band, we may end up all going to see Hagar. I think Hagar and Loverboy will be playing at Ruoff. And then the Saturday night is the JMV Takeover live on B105.7 from Mystic Waters Campground. That is in Pendleton. That is coming up a week from Saturday. So, yeah, it is getting here and getting here quickly. Plenty of opportunities for you guys to come out and join the show. And I say this all the time. Now, do I like coming around here and seeing people, see James and people I work with? We do. The guys next door, I know Hammer's not in there today, but normally both Hammer and Nigel and I hang out for about 30 minutes prior to each show and kind of go over some stuff. And, it's always been a really good time. But it's different when you go out because it's you and I having a hell of a time. That's what it's all about. And we'll start that, and it'll be consistent for the better part of basically every Thursday and Friday up until the end of January. Tomorrow, Sid's Bar and Grill, Tavern Tour Stop. That is going to be in Noblesville. Cannot wait to see you there. Meantime, 239-1070 is the number, not too far away from the Harrah's Hoosier Park race of the day. 50-50 in betting and dining to the winner is coming up. We'll run them again in under 10 minutes. Meantime, 239-1070, as I mentioned, and Bill is up first today. Hello, Bill. How are you?
Hey, JMV, I'm looking forward to being at Sid's tomorrow. My advice to everybody is get there early.
Yes, that's the way that it sounds. Now, have you been to Sid's before, Bill?
Well, here's my Sid's story. I had a friend that was a cook there, and he made a double chocolate cake for Jerry Garcia and sent it to the backstage of the Dead show where the fans tore down the fences and everything, and they had to cancel the show.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that to be a true story. That's a good. When was this? Did I miss out on that?
It was one of the. I think it was the second to last show the Dead ever did.
Huh.
And it was at. I think it was officially called Deer Creek back then.
Yeah.
And the people up and down State Road 38 used to kind of rent out their yards and everything for the Deadheads to camp close enough to Deer Creek, and there was just 20,000 more people standing outside of the back of Deer Creek, and they just charged the fence, tore down the fence, and it was a riot.
Well,
it was an absolute riot, and the Dead did not play that night, and they had one gig in St. Louis after that, and they played that one. And then shortly after that, Jerry Garcia died.
You know what? I was not privy to that story. Maybe if I did, I just had forgotten about it. But, wow. Okay. And then a chocolate cake was made and never, at least as we know, never was eaten, right?
It got delivered, but whatever happened to it,
gotcha.
I don't know. But I've gotten some good feedback on a friend of mine that attends up there, and I'm fired up for the tenderloin.
No, that's why I've heard the same thing, buddy. The same thing.
So that's kind of nice when you know what you're going to order 24 hours before you even get there.
So, hey, Billy, Officer Craig, and I can count on this show doing the research and helping me remember things I had clearly forgotten. July 94, Officer Craig writes, Dead riots. It was 100,000 people outside Deer Creek. I was there. So 1994, July of 94 is what you're looking for.
Yeah, and it was like hot as hell. It was like a scorching day as well, and yeah, it was ugly. But one thing that I'm noticing on the internet now lately are a lot of stories about how Larry Bird was a great trash talker.
Yes,
that he would talk trash to anybody, anytime, in any game, regardless of what the situation was. And I went back and looked at the 1991 playoffs between the Pacers and Boston, where they only played 5 games, the best of 5 games back then.
Yeah.
And Larry Bird got a concussion during that game.
He did, and it was Chuck Person that was doing all the talking in that game.
Oh yeah, and Person was on fire, but apparently former Pacer Chuck Person was the only trash talker in the league that could keep up with Larry Bird.
Yeah, well, in that particular series, Chuck Person was on fire, absolutely on fire. But you're talking about Game 5 when they played there. That's one of the moments of Bird that was basically along with the end or down the stretch of the end of his career. He had a concussion. He had his head on the floor, face on the floor. Went to the locker room, came back out, and closed out with clutch shooting, Larry Bird style, the Pacers back then. Yeah, true story.
And it's special was that Larry Bird had to spend the night in traction before the game.
Yeah, well, I mean that's when he used to lay on the floor in front of the bench because his back was so bad. So
yeah, so if anybody gets a chance to YouTube that series and everything, I've watched a couple of the games, and those were some great games. But there's going to be somebody that's going to be coming to Sid's tomorrow that shared some information with me that how nowadays athletes, their financial portfolios are pretty diverse, and LeBron James and Michael Jordan and everything are billionaires. The only athlete during the Depression to make money was Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
So if you Google Babe Ruth and annuity, he was supposedly a womanizer, a bar brawler, and he was supposedly all these cool things. But he was pretty smart.
He was good with his depression. I got to run here, Billy. I'll see you tomorrow too, my brother. But he was good and sound with his depression era portfolio financially. I did not remember that story about the Grateful Dead, though. Hey, quick one, we'll come back. The Harris Hoosier Park race of the day, 50-50 betting and dining. Somebody's going to win that on the other side, and we'll get you started 5 o'clock hour, right? Colts pregame huddle with the guys in here coming up. Bengals and Colts and a lot more for you. Sit tight. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Well, the Harris Hoosier Park race of the day. That's 50 in betting, 50 in dining from Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. Shout out to Rick Moore, the general manager. My man Tony Wren's up there as well. Had a great time nearly 2 weeks ago. You can check it out. Michael Duffy, the winner today. The winning horse was the Blood Bay Colt. It's a hell of a name right there. $15.60 on a $2 bet, $2 exact, paid out $42.62, and $11.40 was the 50-cent trifecta. Harris Hoosier Park race of the day right here on the Fan. Mike Chappell a little bit earlier, and Lance McAlister from Cincinnati, a variety of things, including tonight's preseason game number 3, and that of Joey Votto announcing his retirement on Instagram yesterday. Thus, where is he going to be in the hierarchy all-time of Reds greats? That with Lance and Mike Chappell. Podcast at 1075thefan.com. The show tomorrow is going to be at Sid's Bar and Grill, Noblesville. That is going to be a tavern tour stop with Heaven Hill Distillery, so be ready for that. We're going to have an outstanding time. Hopefully you've made plans to be there at least at some point. I know because it is the start officially of high school football. That's going to be a busy night for a lot of people, but please make plans before you go and check out high school football in week number 1 to join us at Sid's in Noblesville, because there has been a lot of word and interest in that. I can't wait to see you up there tomorrow with Heaven Hill Distillery. In studio with us, because top of the hour we'll start the Colts pregame huddle. Bill Brooks, the former wide receiver, is with us. This is going to be a lot to talk about tonight, is there not? Because the dynamic's weird with no starters and all the backups, Bill, and obviously for at least a half, Richardson and others going at it from the Colts standpoint.
It's going to be a little bit different with the starters going against the backup units of the Bengals in regards to that. So, but it's still going to be important for the Colts to go out there and execute. That's the bottom line, even though they're going up against the second unit. You want to go out there and execute from an offensive standpoint, defensive standpoint, and also special teams. I heard you talking earlier in regards to Matt Gay. So Matt Gay needs to go out there and hopefully get a chance to make a field goal and get his confidence back up. I doubt. I shouldn't say that. I doubt if he's lacking any confidence. I just want him to make sure he get it through, see it go through. It's like anything else. If you're missing shots from the 3-point line, then all of a sudden you got to hit a foul shot, and you're in rhythm.
Bill, I remember the Eastern Green cheerleaders when I was at the free throw line back in the day. Do a cheer called CONFIDENCE. Woo! Because they had confidence those bad boys are going in. That's where Matt Gay's got to get.
I don't think he's lacking confidence. He just will feel better if he sees one go through.
CONFIDENCE. Woo! James, great job. Hey, tomorrow, Sid's James going to exit. Corbin's going to come in here and probably just screw everything up, but that's okay, buddy. We love you, brother. Corbin's in next. Actually, he's not. I'm just joking. Bill's going to rejoin. I think the Gorman's going to be at Paycor with us coming up, too. That is called the Colts pregame huddle. So 2 hours. We'll have everything you need to get you set for that final preseason game in Cincinnati tonight. The Colts pregame huddle is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.